Hello, welcome to the KOREAZ channel, a platform for Korea's public diplomacy, where we introduce to you Korea's foreign policy and global issues of interest in an easy and intriguing way. I'm Lee Hae-sung, host of KOREAZ channel. The year 2022 is not only the 140th year since the first step was made to establish Korea-U.S. relations, but it's also the first year of the new administration in Korea. As you all know, Korea's 20th president was inaugurated on May 10th, and the summit between the two countries is going to be held in Seoul soon. The 140th year of history between the two countries holds special meaning, and we've invited just the right person to talk about the past, present, and future of the Korea-U.S. alliance. Let us welcome our special guest with a round of applause. Ambassador, I'm very pleased to have you here. Could you introduce yourself briefly to the followers?
Friends of Korea around the world, it's such a pleasure to meet with you. So hello, so glad to see you.
What can this year bring to the progress of the Korea-U.S. relations?
I expect a lot of great things are going to happen between Korea and United States this year in 2022. And there are hundreds of reasons why I think so. But at the same time, if you tell me what in fact would be the one most important reason for the confidence I have, I would say that is President Yoon and President Biden. They have such deep faith and belief in the importance of the alliance between Korea and then the United States.
Oh, so both sides are willing to strengthen the relationship.
I think so.
Wow, that's very hopeful.
Right.
Yeah. I want to ask you about the meaning and importance of Korea-U.S. alliance.
I always thought there are two important P's for diplomacy. First P, that stands for peace. Second P stands for prosperity.
Prosperity.
The new Korean government was formed in 1948. 2 years later, Korea in fact was at the peril of being, in a sense, overtaken by communist North Korean armed attack.
Yeah, that was
And
the
then-
Korean War.
That was the Korean War. And well, it was thanks to the very timely engagement from the United States that we could maintain our independence. And then we entered into alliance relationship in 1953. Koreans worked very hard. International economic environment was favorable for Korea to develop its economy. That favorable environment I will call rule-based liberal international order. A lot of credit for that. That is to say, creating that favorable environment. In fact, well, it owed a lot to what United States was doing in order to build that kind of world order. So that, I think, is the meaning of the alliance for Korea.
This year also marks the 69th anniversary of the Korea-U.S. alliance. Could you please point out the most important landmark in the history of Korea-U.S. relations?
I think the first important landmark was back in 1950 when the Korean War broke out.
Yeah.
There were no less than 1.8 million soldiers who came from United States to Korea to work with us, to fight with us. Without their sacrifice, without their service, then of course, modern day Korea wouldn't be here. And then I think the second very important juncture in the relationship between Korea and then the United States, I think that was 1990. Then this rule-based liberal order, it in fact was limited to what we used to call the free world. It didn't reach the communist world. And then a lot of things happened between 1989 to 1992. And then the end result of it was Cold War came to an end. And as a result of that, this global order, rule-based liberal order, it in fact reached out to the whole world. It provided an opportunity for Korea to normalize relations with all former communist countries, which opened a new opportunity for Korea to further strengthen our peace and our prosperity. And in doing that, again, we worked very closely with the United States. For example, Korea joined United Nations in 1991.
Oh, that was 91.
There was not a small number of UN members who didn't want to see it happen. So we had to work very closely with the United States to join United Nations in 1991. 30 years after 1990, I think that in fact was the best days for Korean democracy, for Korean, economy, and for Korean diplomacy. I think unfortunately, it is being, in a sense, being phased down. It is being challenged rather seriously these days. Today, year 2022, I think it is another important juncture in the relationship between Korea and the United States. Why do I say that? It's because the liberal order from which Korea as a nation we benefited so much, that order is being challenged in so many different parts of the world. That, I think, is the reason why this is the time when we, in fact, must be working even more closely with the United States to maintain this liberal order.
What were some common agendas in previous Korea-U.S. summits?
The most important agenda item used to be security cooperation between Korea and the United States. After 1990s, for obvious reason, we in fact used to talk a lot about North Korean nuclear development. Second agenda item was, of course, the economic cooperation. Used to focus a lot on KOREAZ FTA for a certain period of time. But at the same time, there is a third agenda item, which is global cooperation. Meaning, Korea and United States, we are, cooperating very closely on large number of areas on global issues.
Likewise, what do you expect the key topics of the upcoming summit between the two countries?
Basically, they will be discussing about these three issues that we just discussed about. There is the security, economy, and the global issues.
Said that the chemistry between the two presidents would be fantastic, right?
I guess so. Because they share the same belief. And then what would be more advantageous than sharing same belief in order to, promote, say, positive chemistry. So I'm pretty sure about that.
And we ask our guests to choose a song for our closing. So which song would you like to pick and why?
Well, I left Korean government service at the end of 2017, and then I had to make an acceptance speech. I just looked at the people around the room, and then it included many former prime ministers, former seniors, former superiors, my former colleagues, my mother, my wife, my son, my friends. So I just looked at them and then said, well, if I could achieve anything as a diplomat, then I think I know I would not have been able to do it without your guidance, without your support, and then without your friendship. I, in fact, stood upon your shoulder, and without your shoulder, I would not have been able to do that. Well, there is a song, You Raise Me Up.
You raise me up.
You raise me up to more than I can be.
You raise me up.
Exactly, to more than I can be.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your precious time.
Thank you so much. Such a pleasure.
Then I am still